And welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals, actually show 13. I'm Trip Mitchell. That's Randall Carlisle.
Is it 13 or 14? We air
13.
them every week, so
Yeah. Well,
I've lost count.
We have, but congratulations. That's a quarter of a year. You know, you're kind of good to work with. You maybe should think about if your next career
I'm going
getting into
to apply
television.
for a TV job after I retire from Odyssey House and doing this, okay?
But you've told me that working with Odyssey House for and worth the community is the best job you've ever had.
Well, I feel like that I'm helping an organization that does a lot more for the community than perhaps a TV newsroom does. So
A TV newsroom does a lot.
well, they do a lot of information, but you have to realize, I mean, I'm working at a nonprofit, and TV stations are the farthest thing from a nonprofit.
Well, you've never worked for a station that I've owned.
Well,
We are
okay,
nonprofits,
okay.
but not intentionally. Who is our lovely guest this
Our
week?
lovely guest today, I'm glad you asked me that, Don Pardo, it sounds like a game show, is Trisha Bishop from the State Health Department. So tell us what you do there.
So I am the syringe exchange specialist.
That's hard to say.
it
Syringe
is.
exchange specialist.
I prefer needle exchange.
Okay,
but,
that is easier to say.
is a little
Which
easier
means
to say.
what?
So let's see. In a nutshell, it means that at the State Health Department we have some oversight of our syringe exchange programs that are out in the community. So we have a couple syringe exchange programs that are out in the community that have requested some funding from us, and other programs that have not requested funding from us, but we have some oversight of what they're doing.
For people who don't know what a needle exchange is easier.
Right,
I like
isn't
it.
it? Right, it is.
Right.
It comes off the tongue better.
Needle exchange. I mean, what do you? I've seen a couple of news stories and I've been there before, but just describe it for somebody who doesn't know what it is. You set up a place somewhere
So
and do
depending, yes. Some of our needle exchange, our syringe exchange programs are mobile. Some of them are brick and mortar. So when we do a syringe exchange, at least here in Utah, it's not just I'm giving you a unused syringe, you're
And I'm
giving
giving
me
you a dirty one.
or used.
Okay.
So we are also providing at these syringe exchange locations resources, referrals, whether that be to treatment facilities. We are providing HIV and Hep C testing. Some of our syringe locations also provide vaccines and other STD testing. I'm trying to think of other things that it's not just it says syringe exchange, but we do much more than just that. So, and as you said, 1-for-1, it's not even 1-for-1. So we have a 1-for-1 enhanced program. We know that when somebody walks away with one syringe and they're not going to see us again for 2 weeks or maybe a day, there's a high likelihood that they're going to use more than one time. So we give them the 1+.
Well, how do you answer people who say that you're just enabling bad behavior?
I don't think there's any studies to really show that we're enabling bad behavior. We're out in the community providing these resources, and I think the goal of this program is disease prevention. So if we got to look at it from a whole different perspective, and we can't be like, we're giving you the party pack, you're going to just keep using drugs.
Has anyone ever asked if you give them heroin as well?
Well,
I bet you've
yes
gotten
and no. And I mean, again, we're seeing places thinking about that and giving them medical grade heroin, so they're not coming in with drugs that they're not familiar with or don't know what's in them. So I'm not saying that's ever going to happen here in Utah, but
it does happen.
It does, right? Exactly.
And
so
in Canada.
And Canada. So we just recently had Canada come here. We had a meeting with them about their opioid crisis versus our opioid crisis and the direction of movement with drugs. And
I don't want to get controversial, but
right.
I think just anecdotally, I've heard that the evidence is that it's much safer for people when the government steps in and does a little bit more.
Well, and yes, I agree with you. I mean, I do think that there's no studies to show that giving someone syringes is in turn making them do more drugs. Heather and I, my boss, Heather, at the health department, we have thousands of syringes surrounding us every day, and I don't go home at night and shoot up. I don't do drugs. So that does not mean, again, there's no studies to show that is proven that it's going to increase drug use. There are studies out there to show condom use. I came from the HIV world, and 20 years ago, it was, oh my gosh, you can't give kids condoms. We still say that now, but if you give them condoms, all they're going to do is have sex. And that's not the case. We know that. There's nothing to...
When you check into an Olympic Village, condoms are there.
Well, they might be, right. There might have been a little sex happening up in Olympic Village, but yes.
If you think about it, it's a brilliant idea. If you put out a call on the media and said, attention all addicts, please come to a certain area so that we can help you, okay? Nobody's going to show up. Or, I mean...
They would think it was a setup.
Well, of course they
Right.
would. But by doing something like this, how else could you find a group of people who need services like that, who are willing to come and trust somebody that they're not going to that they're not going to call the cops and say, hey, we've got a bunch of heroin addicts here or something. So you get a whole group of people who is the group that you want to help, and they're there. And so you have them right there, and that's why some of the folks from Odyssey show up and things like that, because it's like, if you'd like help, here's where help is available. Or like Trisha said, to test for HIV or Hep C. I mean, you could never get those people together in any other format than what they're doing.
And I think we're trying to go to them. So, like you said, they're afraid to come to us. So by providing that service, whether it be mobile or whether it be brick and mortar, we're trying to get to that community as best as we can in a comfortable way, and trying to eliminate stigma around it. Like, I think there's so much stigma wrapped around a person who uses drugs, and they don't want to be maybe necessarily identified that way. That's not that whole human being. That's not that person.
It's
So
not just a drug addict. That's
Right.
also Randall Carlisle.
Exactly.
I'm not just a recovering alcoholic. There's a lot more to my
Yes.
life than that.
Right.
So and it's the same with the people she's dealing with.
Well, it's interesting too, because when you talk to people outside drug use, they have a much different look at it.
Oh, absolutely.
And interesting talking to your coworker in a previous show, Heather, talking about how the perception is that it's a choice that people make, and people want to be homeless and addicted to a drug, and nothing could be further from the truth.
Right, absolutely.
And in many cases now, people are getting addicted to opioids through an accident, and then the pill's no longer available, so you make that switch to IV drugs.
Yes, yes.
And it's a horrible lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely. I do think that if you think about the drug user, I think we all have a picture in our head of what that drug user looks like. And yes, we are targeting a lot of that unfortunate, picture in your head. Those are the
Right.
people we're seeing. But there are also those people who we aren't able to get to the best way, because it's the person who might have had an accident. It's the young kid who broke his leg and was given opioids because of pain. It's the mother of 6 kids who is the soccer mom who is running all over the place and might be using opioids for pain meds, or might be using other types of drugs. So those are also populations that we're...
And we have a high instance of prescribed drugs in the state of
Prescription
Utah.
drug use is super
It's
high.
Maybe
Lemma Harrington, a BYU football player. He gets injured, gets hooked on opioid pain pills, can't get them anymore, ends up a heroin addict, living near Pioneer Park, losing his job at KSL. It's people like that. I mean, it's everybody. It's mothers and fathers and
though by the grace of God.
Yeah, exactly.
And opioid abuse, and again, because Utah has got a high prescription rate, it's cutting across all socioeconomic lines, religious. This happens to people, the LDS Church. People would never think of having a drink in their life, but if a doctor prescribes it, it's okay.
Right. An interesting thing, when Canada came here for our meeting, they were calling the people in their community who were using drugs their community, versus us versus them. Those people over there using drugs versus we all need to work together because they need help. We need to help them. And I think we also need to change our mindset a little bit and how we present that information about
And a rising
it's
tide.
them versus it's all of us. This is our community and we need to help them.
Certainly. And
These are human beings. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
well, you made a very good point in our last show talking about, or it might have been Heather, about someone who has diabetes.
Oh yeah.
And in that situation, it's not like we shame them into
Oh right.
put that sugar cookie down.
Right.
Lose some weight.
Right. I might do that to my father, but
But in essence, working with people. And the other thing that was really interesting is when you have an interaction with a client, it's a very positive thing.
I would say 99% of the time it's a positive thing. So yes, it's 100% positive. They're glad we are there. They just in the last, I would say 6 months, we've been doing some qualitative surveying of the community who's utilizing this program to see if they like it. And we have so many responses of people saying, I feel so much better about myself and I'm concerned about my health, and now I know these services are available to me, and I know where to go, and I know where I can get those services, and I know who I can reach out to. And maybe not the first time they came to us, maybe not the 10th time they came to us, but maybe the 27th time they came to us.
Trust is built up in little steps.
Yes, and they're ready to maybe go into treatment or maybe try something different. Or maybe we're seeing their drug use decrease because of the program versus this idea and mentality that we're just increasing it. They're increasing it by giving them unused, safe, sterile syringes.
If you ever go to a needle exchange, it's really sort of interesting because what they're doing is they're saying, hey, we recognize you as a human being, and if you have these needs, we're here to help, and not you're a lowly drug addict and but we'll take care of you here. Like, I mean, everybody's treated with respect, and that makes such a huge difference to a human being.
Certainly. You actually came equipped with some numbers.
I did.
Wow. You did your homework.
I was nervous.
So now, are you nervous anymore?
Maybe a little bit.
Okay,
But
all
not
right.
as much.
It'll get better. Okay. Because I happen to be able to attend a monthly meeting that they have with a whole group of service providers who deal in the area of harm reduction and needle exchanges, and so they gather some of these numbers, and they're really interesting. So go ahead and make use of your homework.
I will try, and I don't mean to just spit numbers out, but the numbers that we have collected, we do have numbers from 2017 up until now, but these numbers reflect from July 2018 to July 2019, even though we're not in
How can
July
you do that?
2019. Right?
Do you have a
Exactly.
crystal ball?
Right,
that-
as I'm just reading this, I'm like, wait a minute.
We are recording
right,
this in
right.
April, so
By the way, I will let you know who wins the Major League All-Star game. if you
Super,
wanna help me
right,
out.
right. The Brewers. I mean, yes. So from July, let's say July 2018 to the end of March,
okay.
our numbers look like this. So we have about 5,533 personal interactions with people who are coming to the syringe exchange.
That's less than a year. Think about
Yes,
that.
less than a year. We've served almost 1,400 clients, 1,372 clients that we've served. And our average interaction per client, they're coming back about 4 times. So the other things we're seeing is, I think there's a big misperception as well that we are just giving syringes out, but yet we are collecting a lot of data, and we see that the number of syringes that come in, it's almost equal. So for every 7 syringes we give out, 5 syringes are being returned. So that number is actually really small, I think,
And
compared to what we might
Syringes
think.
being disposed of anywhere are a tremendous public health risk.
And they can be, yes. But we now have these wonderful collection boxes that are all over the community. I say all over the community. But I would say primarily in the downtown area, there are 4 collection boxes that look like big red mailboxes that people can dispose of their syringes in a safe way. So if they're not able to come to the syringe exchange program, if they don't know where to dispose of used syringes, they can locate these 4 mailboxes like thing. Don't put your mail in it. Don't put your voter ballots in it.
Don't put your arm in it.
Right, don't put your arm in it. But yes, you can dispose of your used syringes in these containers. So again, we're trying to also encourage that we're all cleaning up our spaces. And we've also noticed that in since the beginning of this program, we have our numbers of collection, our numbers of not collection, but our numbers of disposal in these areas. So where we've done some work to clean up some areas, we've been called, the health department's been called, we've sent some of our syringe exchange programs out to do cleanups. Because there might be syringes all over the place, we have noticed a big decrease in those requests, meaning that people are actually cleaning up after themselves because they have a place to put them now and they're just not throwing them on the ground.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So other numbers here.
Oh, yeah.
Those are interesting.
So we, again, as I said, we've done testing. We do hepatitis C testing and HIV testing. So we've tested over almost 300 people for hepatitis, and we've tested over 500 people for HIV. So not many positives for HIV, but we have 29.6% positive for hepatitis. And I think that's the one that we really need to think about, because what we know is hepatitis lives in dried blood for 3+ weeks. So it's much easier to transmit, and I don't know that we think about that.
So hepatitis C,
Yes.
what give kind of the liver challenges? What are the big challenges of hep C?
I mean, hepatitis period is inflammation of your liver. So if somebody has hepatitis, whether it be A, B, or C, they're probably going to get inflammation of their liver. They might have yellowing of their eyes, of their skin. They might have nausea. I think things that you might not know might even be hepatitis. So hepatitis C, the thing about hepatitis C is there's no vaccine for it. So hepatitis A and B, if you don't have your hep A and B vaccines, go get your hep A and B vaccines. Yeah. So easy to prevent with those vaccines available. Hepatitis C, there's no vaccine, but we have treatment available. And treatment, you can get on treatment and be free of hepatitis C in 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the type of medication. And there are a lot of programs out there that assist patients to help pay for these medications. So I know when the medications in hep C boomed and the medications came out, there was a lot of angry clients, I think angry people who were treating people for hep C, saying these people can't afford the medication. Right. So there's a lot of work that has been done to decrease the costs and to also have programs available to help clients who need this medication and help pay for those medications.
And one of the cool things that you do, as I learn more about this, is you might be the one person from, I hate to use the term authority, but someone with a lot of information who's interacting with these people. Yep. You might be the only one who's doing it in a non-judgmental, informative way. Right.
And I
that's
think
nice.
That's the whole philosophy, I think, behind harm reduction, is taking them where they're at, being okay and understanding that there's this spectrum, and we're not going to judge you for the drug use. We want to help you. We want to give you that warm handoff and connect you to resources, and it could be to the Odyssey House.
Could be anywhere.
Right.
Hey, the whole point is we're talking about human beings. I hate to keep emphasizing that, and we're not talking about people, that are making a moral choice every day to shoot up heroin. They have a disease, and it's a disease like diabetes or cancer or alcoholism. It's something that affects human beings that we all know in society. It's not just the people you think of down on Rio Grande. It's people throughout society. When they were cracking down on I used to talk to the cops out in Rio Grande, and the people who were driving down there to buy drugs, because everybody knew you could get drugs down there, were women from the suburbs that had kids in their car seats. They were business guys. I mean, it's not just people that you picture as being the typical person in addiction.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
And I remember once when living in Las Vegas, we were rebuilding homes in a very rough part of town, and a couple came in with BYU stickers on their car, both blonde young man, blonde girl, in a convertible going into the ghetto to buy drugs. And I advised them they should leave. But it cuts across all lines. And again,
that's why this program is so important, and that's why they do such a good job. They've got these numbers here of people they're helping. They're making such a difference in people's lives on a one-on-one basis that you can't do through the mass media. You can only do it by finding a compassionate person like Trisha talking to me one-on-one, and it's like, my God, she acts like she respects me. She's not looking down on me, even though you're higher than me right now.
So,
but
Trisha,
you are looking down on me.
when
So
you
I
go
was-
into these areas, is there any fear, any intimidation, or is it something that you've just gotten used to?
I think I've gotten used to. I don't know that my husband likes the fact that I've gotten so used to it, and I'm totally okay with it, because again, I think it's going back to this, like, I think we very much forget that first and foremost, we are that human being, and this person shouldn't be scary. They might want just somebody to talk to or have a conversation with, and so it doesn't bother me at all, and I think that if anything, I feel like it makes me happy that I can go in and serve this community and help this community in a way that they might not, again, they're not being seen in the same light as everybody else is seeing them.
And even if they've done nothing more than keep that person healthier in addiction, then they've done something. I mean, it's like that person could end up dying later on because they aren't using in a healthy manner, or could end up in the ER, which costs everybody money.
Yeah,
You know,
from a
it's
public policy and public health perspective, obviously this is a no-brainer, and it's saving money ultimately
Right.
for the whole community, because
Right,
we all
absolutely.
pay those costs.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And it really is very impressive that you've put down any misgivings, and you came over from an HIV perspective. You were
Yes,
involved in that
yes,
fight
so,
for a long
yes,
time.
20 years. Yeah, I would say I've been in and out of the HIV world, but yes, and I will say that as much as we might be steps behind some of the other communities, I think we are taking some really strong steps forward.
Well, what the state of Utah, and Greg Hughes, the former Speaker of the House, I have to give him all the kudos that you can, took this issue on when no one else would touch it,
Right.
and literally dragged the state of Utah into doing some things that have really changed, game changers.
Yes. I mean, I talk to friends of friends, and when I tell them what I do, like, a jaw drops. You know, it's like, okay, like, remember what this is for, and then again pointing out the disease prevention aspect of it, and how we are providing them with resources and wound care kits and all of these other things
And
that they might never have connections to.
Here's another controversial topic. Talk about fentanyl test strips. Okay.
So fentanyl's in
We-
everything.
We hear about everybody dying overdoses
Right.
because fentanyl's mixed with all the crap
Yep.
people are buying.
Yeah,
now.
with pot now, which is considered kind of an innocuous subject by a
Right,
lot of people, or
right.
substance, I should
Right.
say, by a lot of
Which
people.
is scary. And again, Canada, when they were here, they told us that it's coming this way. Like,
Fentanyl?
we might, yes, like we have it now, but it's in everything in Canada, and it's coming.
Why
this
does fentanyl why is it put into drugs?
Well, I don't know that I can give you the why. My idea
I can give you the
is,
why. It's cheaper than the
well,
other
there you
stuff,
go.
and
It's
so you're
cheaper.
watering
It's a
down.
filler. It's
Yeah.
like putting sawdust in
And
with
so
your
if-
hamburger.
If you buy heroin and you're using less heroin and a little bit of fentanyl, it still gives you a really great high, I guess, if you or
Provided it doesn't
kills
kill you. Yeah, with the latter, I mean, it's better to have return customers, I would think, but
Yeah.
And if you look at images of the amount of fentanyl that could be considered overdose, like potential, like crumbs in your hand,
Yeah.
very like little, like breadcrumbs, like that's about what we're looking at. That could provide, that could put somebody in potential overdose. Versus overdosing on different drugs, you're looking at like a teaspoon versus
Wow.
crumbs.
so it is a super dangerous.
It can be if people aren't smart.
But you
about
have
it.
you have test strips.
So
which is-
we're working on getting test strips and making those test strips available to the clients. We would give them to them. They would use the test strip to test their own drugs, and we would also give them, I think, resources and education so that they knew what to do if their drugs tested positive. Because at some point, yes, if it tests positive for fentanyl, then what am I supposed to do with that?
Take it back to
So-
the dealer and say, I want my money back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You take it back to the dealer, or you give them, okay, so now you know there's fentanyl in it. do you want to keep using it? If I don't want to keep using it, what's the proper disposal of that so nobody else gets their hands on it? And or if I choose to use it, I'm going to use it in a way that I'm going to go slow. So I might use a very small incremental amount of my drug to see what happens before I would use it all, because we already know that there's fentanyl in it.
And I'm going to have some naloxone.
And I'm going to have
hand.
naloxone
Yeah.
available, and I'm going to have a plan in place, or at least let people who are around me know that my naloxone's in the bathroom if I need it. I'm using my drugs tonight at 6 o'clock. I mean, yes, that's a lot of stuff that someone might not think about doing, but it's also good to think about.
It sounds so
every now and
goofy
then.
to give out a test strip to test the drugs that you bought from your dealer, but it could prevent death.
Yes.
And that is ultimately what we're talking about. And Randall, you are a great spokesperson for the clients that you see.
Mm-hmm.
But these are people who have parents, who have brothers and sisters, who have wives, husbands. This is a process that can be done. I'm going to go ahead and put your email address up on the screen for
Perfect.
information.
Perfect.
So if you have questions about the programs that the state of Utah does, make sure to drop you an email.
Super.
Also, we've had the number up for Odyssey House. So if you
801-322-3222. How about that?
and
It took me a year and a half to memorize that. But
and email. So we've got email up on the screen for the state of Utah. If you have any questions, we've got the phone number for Odyssey House. Thank you so much for coming
Absolutely.
in.
Yes, thank you very much.
And we
See,
really
are you
appreciate
nervous
it.
still?
I'm still a little.
Jeez.
Because Heather was watching me, and she's going to now critique me.
You've gotten through it. Randall, thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you.
Trip
Thank you,
Mitchell,
Trisha.
saying we'll see you
Absolutely.
next
Yes,
time.
yes.
If you get a chance, if you've got questions, call that number, drop an email to the wonderful people at the state. There are people out there that can help and give you great advice. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.